I am in the production business. I understand what is worth doing for ratings. I understand what is worth doing when the industry is canceling one black guy. I know what happens when they are going to elevate another. And I know what happens when they don't care about either of them. This is how quarterbacking goes. So the question is, hey, your quarterback just got sacked. Did we know we was fin to sack your quarterback? We absolutely did. It was a play, buddy. We've been rehearsing it, working it out, making sure that at some point, when you get to this level, we can make sure we knock you from a $20 million man to putting in the news that people won't hire you no more.
Spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary.
Every scandal has two versions, the one the public is allowed to see and the one that never makes it to the final cut. For years, Katt Williams has claimed that chaos in the entertainment industry is rarely accidental, especially when powerful people continue profiting behind the scenes. The downfall of Sean Combs feels no different, with lawsuits, raids, and leaked footage becoming the public-facing narrative while deeper questions remain unanswered. Beyond the polished documentary Sean Combs, The Reckoning, critics point to missing voices, including a security guard who allegedly witnessed key events but was excluded, a bad boy co-founder who lost a major stake in the company yet still appears protective of Diddy's image, and filmmakers accused of controlling who could speak and who would remain silent. According to this perspective, the bigger mystery is not whether Diddy is guilty, but whether the story was carefully shaped from the beginning to ensure he became the only face of a much larger system.
Everything that happens in a business, that's based off of pretend, that seems like a setup, is.
Yes. What I'm saying is, if Jussie Smollett and Lee Daniels for a living make stories that are not real, and they make them so good that people believe them and buy them, and that's what business they're in, why would you think it would be weird if they flipped out and said a story that turned out to not be true?
Why? Why would we think that? If they are capable of doing that for a living.
That's what they do for a living. They do that 300 episodes. Is take something fictitious and make it seem real. That's the business.
Katt Williams argues that in an entertainment industry built on illusion, very little that appears staged is ever accidental. According to him, the same writers, producers, and executives who spend years crafting believable fiction also know how to shape real-life narratives, turning scandals, public breakdowns, and celebrity conflicts into carefully managed storylines. Viewed through that lens, Gene Deal's account of the Diddy documentary feels less like behind-the-scenes confusion and more like a controlled production from the beginning. Gene claims the project was originally supposed to feature three major insiders: a longtime security guard close to Sean Combs, a childhood friend, and a business partner tied to Bad Boy, all meant to reveal a deeper and more complex story than the version eventually shown to the public. But according to these claims, once powerful people became involved, only selected voices were allowed to speak while others were quietly pushed out of the narrative.
So this one night, 50 called me up, and they got him on the phone. Me and him was just talking. We was talking about old time. Sit down with Black Hands. Sit down with with Puff Kids, the whole Puff situation, and this documentary that he's going to be doing. You know what I'm saying? So I told him that I was going to, have Kirk and Tim. Kirk will be the one who talk about the business part of it. Tim would be the one who talk about the growing up phase with Diddy and everything, and over there working in the record industry with him and stuff like that. They was like family. And I was gonna talk about, the street stuff, what was going on with Bad Boy, with the security, with Wolf, with the City College, with the time that I knew about when I was with him up until about early 2004 or something like that. But basically the streets, and then the traveling with him and the atmosphere and everything, and then go back into the Notorious Big, stuff with the Tupac and the whole 9 yards, all the stuff that I knew. You know what I'm saying? So we was talking, and he sounded like, yo, listen here. They gonna spare no expense with this whole documentary. So I said, all right, cool.
According to Gene, everything began when the producers called him and said that nobody understood Sean Combs' private world better than he did. They reportedly wanted him to be one of the main voices in the documentary, not just another side character, because they believed his insider knowledge could help tell a much deeper story.
What I did was I spoke to Tim and I spoke to Kirk Burroughs. And I was like, yo, because I had Tim's number. Tim didn't know how to get in touch with Kirk. Kirk didn't know how to get in touch with Tim. But Kirk was trying to tell me, give him the number with the Tim. I said, nah, I ain't doing that. So I gave one of the producers the number in the whole 9 yards to get in touch with Tim because I want to see him get money because I know Tim got a hell of a story with Puff. So then I talked to Tim and I told him, yo, listen here, man, we should go in as a package deal. All three of us, we could tell a hell of a story about this whole documentary. You know what I'm saying? From front to start. Then whatever stuff that they get and everything like that. So let's go in there and ask them for 50 a piece. You know what I'm saying? So Tim was like with it, yo, Gene, whatever, go ahead like that. Kirk was like, yeah, okay, cool, Gene. It was like a general census that we was gonna do this in a whole package deal. You know what I'm saying? And then I started speaking to the producers and everything like that because 50 had told me himself that they was going to spare no cost in doing this because he wanted to tell the story and he wanted to tell the story like it was supposed to be told and everything like that.
Gene says the documentary was never meant to focus on just one perspective. According to him, the original plan was for him to cover the security side of Sean Combs' life, another insider to speak on Diddy's early years, and Kirk Burroughs to explain the business side of Bad Boy, creating what they believed would be a complete picture of the story. In exchange, they expected fair payment and some level of control over how their experiences would be presented. Gene claims that 50 Cent initially supported the idea, but tensions reportedly began once the director started making key decisions about the documentary.
The director, I gotta get her name, man. Because it don't even sound, I want to put her on blast because she was telling me, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, you got, I was doing footage, I had pictures, all the stuff that I had, you could figure out a way to pay her, brother, and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received, and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I was like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff, the first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. If you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary. And he definitely don't pay. He determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. I was like, oh, so if it's not his documentary and I spoke to him like that, I don't need to be doing nothing with you because I'm doing this on the strength of him. But you gonna pay me if I do it. So it went back and forth, you know what I'm saying, for a little bit, and then they had Kirk Burroughs giving me calls and everything like that. What are you calling me for? You know what I'm saying? I'm not. Get out of here. I know what kind of dude you is anyway. Me and you cool and everything, Kirk, but don't call me about no business with this stuff like that. And then what I found out is that he was making a deal, cutting a deal for himself as well as Tim. You understand? And I was trying to get a deal for all three of us. You understand? So that's how them industry cats go. You know, that's what they do.
According to Gene, everything changed once money and creative control became part of the conversation. He claims it was not 50 Cent who pushed him away, but the documentary's director, who allegedly argued that his demands were too expensive and downplayed the payments he had received from previous projects. Gene says she also made it clear that 50 Cent was not the person deciding who would be paid or whose stories would make the final cut, suggesting that the real power behind the documentary may have belonged to the director rather than the public face attached to the project.
You understand? First and foremost, you got your man Russell Simmons out here dealing with these young girls. You understand? Kim Porter was one of them. She was then passed from Russell Simmons to Andre Harrell. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just gonna give it to you. You understand? Because these we out here playing, talking all this, acting like they know what they talking about. She was working for Russell first, then she was passed over to Andre Harrell. You understand? So now Andre Harrell has her in the office and stuff like that. And it was said that it was a girl also in Uptown, and I don't know if it was Kim. I don't know if it was Kim or one of her friends walked in on Andre Harrell getting a fellatio and was given a red Mercedes-Benz 300C for keeping her mouth closed behind it. You understand? Because when Kirk Burroughs was talking about Puff did that or whatever like that, you understand? It actually happened to Andre Harrell up in Uptown Records. Kim Porter's at the desk because Andre Harrell is doing Russell Simmons a favor by giving her a job over there. Because now Russell Simmons is trying to get her friend Kamoya. Because all of them was actors. All of them was models. Kim, Kamoya, and they was young girls. So now her and Al get together and everything like that. Check this out. Kim didn't get with Puff until Puff got his deal. Because you gotta realize, Misa Kim was cool. Kim didn't get with Puff until after Puff got his deal. So all that, he got her from Al and stuff like that, nah. She went with the money was, bro. She went with the money. And you could call it whatever you want to. You understand what I'm saying? That's how it was.
Gene also argues that even personal relationships can become simplified and reshaped into dramatic storylines for the public. In the popular version of events, Sean Combs is often portrayed as the man who took Kim Porter away from Al B. Sure. But according to Gene's perspective, the reality was far more complicated. He suggests that Kim, like many people navigating the entertainment world, was drawn towards success, opportunity, and the lifestyle connected to power in the industry. In his view, the simplified love triangle narrative became the version people repeated because it was more dramatic, easier for audiences to follow, and ultimately easier for the media to market and sell.
They said Big had paid for his funeral through his budget. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody would know that, Kirk Burrow would know that. And I heard Wayne Barrows came out and said some shit, but to refute that. You know what I'm saying? But if Miss Wallace got a check and the check, if she got Biggie's, if they had Biggie's budget and that was taken out, money was taken out that budget for his funeral, he did use it. And if anybody knew that, Kirk Burrows would know that. It was his manager. Big had told me that he was going to get rid of them because they didn't know what they was doing before he died. I had a conversation with Big. Big said, I'm getting rid of them because they the one effed me up because they the one that convinced him to sell his publishing and his marketing to Puff. They was Puff boys. I guess they met in school or whatever like that. But Big was going to get rid of them. But because he died and his mother didn't know the business, she kept him around for years. If you look at anything that happened with the Notorious Biggs and his camp, you see Wayne Barrows on there as executive producer. And he was just a manager of some of Big affairs. He was executive producers of damn near everything that went on that had to do with. If Miss Wallace was the executive producer, he was the executive producer too. Look at some of the things that was done. And now he's suing, trying to get money from Faith because of, he's saying that she has to pay the Wallace estate, and Miss Wallace is dead. Big is dead. If the estate is anything, it's CJ, Tatiana, and Faith. That's the estate.
Sean Combs did go on to build a massive business empire and achieve enormous success in the entertainment industry, while many of the people around him, including former partners and associates, eventually found themselves pushed into the background as his influence and power continued to grow.
Then there was a situation that somebody said long time ago in the office. They caught Kirk giving Puff a fellatio in the office. Now that was the rumor that was going around. How true it is? They was lovers. It came out in his lawsuit. He tried to say that Puff was, what he saying, him. But if somebody you, how you letting them come stay at your house every Wednesday night after the club? I think they were boyfriends, you know. I think, my honest opinion, I think Kirk was in love with Puff to a certain degree. And Puff was using him. And Kirk was giving up the Bugina to him. Anything Puff asked him to do, he would do. You know, he'd go at people, he'd talk. Kirk would talk to you on the behalf of Puff. And I believe that that was his man to a certain degree in his mind. And the way he was saying documentary, you could feel that they had a relationship. He was hurt behind being Justin's godfather. He allowed Puff to tell him that he was caught up with Misa and everything like that. He believed all this I got out of it. I don't know what you and the other people got out of it. He was saying like he was a scorned lover.
But how did you find out that he gave Diddy fellatio? You know who they came from?
Well, we heard that a long time ago. Like when I was working for Bad Boy. I heard that rumor a long time ago. I was working for Bad Boy that Kurt was caught up giving him a fellatio in the office. And they got rid of one of the interns for walking in on him or something like that. You understand? But then Kurt come out in this documentary, in this lawsuit, and say he was giving Puff was making him, giving him fellatios and the Bugina. That's in his lawsuit. But I guess if Cassie is a scorned lover, Kirk has the right to be a scorned lover too.
Gene says there is another emotional and personal layer to the story that goes beyond business deals and public scandals. According to his perspective, Kirk Burroughs was not simply a former partner of Sean Combs, but someone who remained deeply loyal to him even after years of conflict and separation. Gene suggests that this loyalty may explain why certain details are still avoided or softened, protecting parts of the system while allowing only limited truths to reach the public. As a result, when the Netflix documentary was released, it appeared to many viewers that an insider was finally exposing everything. But from the viewpoint shared by Gene and Katt Williams, the documentary may have relied on carefully chosen voices that revealed enough to damage Diddy's image without fully exposing the larger network and deeper issues behind the scenes.
Then it's coincidental, or you would be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money. When these rappers get killed, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts. Now only got to deal with the mama, only got to see her once a year, and it's over. And the money goes up and up and up. So they killed this $20 million guy, but they reaped $60 million in benefits.
At this point, the pattern described by Katt Williams and Gene Deal starts to feel more connected, with both suggesting that the entertainment industry rarely allows major narratives to unfold by accident. Katt portrays a system where celebrities are treated like valuable investments, built up when profitable and discarded when they become a liability, while Gene claims that the moment he asked for proper recognition and control over his story, he was suddenly viewed as a risk instead of an asset. In the middle of it all stands Kirk Burroughs, presented as a complicated figure who is part insider, part victim, and part gatekeeper. Someone who reveals enough information to shape the public narrative, but allegedly stops short of exposing the deeper structure behind it. From this perspective, the version viewers ultimately see may only represent a controlled portion of the truth, while the most important details remain hidden behind the scenes.